on the Boxer and Gerson guest line, one of our absolute favorites, and we haven't been able to talk to him in a while, so I'm super pumped about this. It's Sean Salisbury, everybody. Hey, bud.
Gentlemen, good to talk with you, and you guys are my favorite, too. You know my affinity not only for the station, but you guys and all the great talent and people there and production guys, so it's great to be on with you. Been too long. Thanks for having me, and I guess I could say Happy New Year since we haven't talked in the New Year, so good to be with you.
Boy, Sean, I would love it if you would say Happy New Year, actually. The reason I'm laughing is you just hit my partner's pet peeve here.
Sean.
He's got like a January 8th cutoff, and you're like not allowed to say that anymore.
I am with him. Normally it's like, dude, it's the 15th. Why are we still saying it? But being the fact that we talked a couple times early in the fall, and I know football and business gets away with us. It's just my way. It was kind of a little bit of a dig because I'm the same way. It's like, dude, it's February 24th. You don't need to tell me that anymore. But
I mean,
Happy New Year anyway. So
Sean,
it's good to be with you guys.
I'm going to ask you politely to knock it off. Because unless you want to wish me a happy Thanksgiving and a happy Hanukkah and a Merry Christmas, because you missed all those too, pal.
Well, hey, how was your Halloween and how was your 4th of July?
And you forgot Labor Day. Yes, happy Labor Day. Yes, thank you, Sean. I'm going to give you a pass because you're one of my favorites, but consider yourself warned.
We're good.
Awesome. Good.
Oh, my gosh. That could not have started any better. Sean Salisbury with us right here on Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. All right, Sean. The Lions have a porous pass defense. The weather's going to be good. This is supposed to be the Brock Purdy game, right?
I would think so. You guys know my affinity for him. You know how many guys I have to fight with and rip to shreds on the national level this past, not only the season, but this past week, listening to some of these guys, how you'd think Brock Purdy was a hack. Well, one thing I do know, that in the first 2 years of their career, Goff, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes. Now, Mahomes in year 2, but remember, he only started one game in year 1. He's the best of the 4. So let me just start with that. Brock Purdy, and, from last week, he able to survive. And you know what the narrative? Think about this now. What if Brock Purdy would have thrown the ball Jordan Love through? How would the national media be talking about that last interception? They'd be killing him. Didn't Brock Purdy take him down to win the game at the end? When it mattered, when the game was on the line, we'll be praising guys. I see more guys get credit in the loss who are really good players and than a guy does with a win. But all I have to do is listen to the teammates of Brock Purdy, study him on tape to know the guy's a great player. Yeah, he's not as talented, but neither was Drew Brees as some of the other guys, Josh Allen. Not as talented as Josh Allen. So was, Peyton Manning wasn't exactly the most athletic, but, man, he sure made the simple play all the time, all these things. I don't need to defend Brock Purdy, but I almost feel like I do because I am flabbergasted at the empty analysis and the, quite frankly, lack of preparation that I hear from some of these national guys that are getting paid 7 figures to come on and spew diarrhea about a quarterback who's done nothing other than a few losses and bad games that everybody has. Who doesn't play great, but not good, great football? And if he doesn't finish second in the MVP award, then we got it wrong. But that being said, now that I got that out, yes, weather should be good. Not inclement, not I wouldn't imagine huge wind, no rain, and you can throw the ball on them. The concern for me is if you're the 49ers, they got a really, really good run defense, and you guys got a really, really good run game in San Francisco. If something does go sideways and it gets into a game where it got to the point where both teams had one dimension. Can Brock, if it came into that, do we trust that he's going to do? I do. Some may not. And I don't think it'll be a one-dimensional game. I don't think Kyle would let that happen, even if they were playing really good run defense. So, 49ers should be favored, but 7 points is a lot if you're a gambler to me because I think Detroit's a really good team. But I would fully expect Brock Purdy to be at his best this weekend.
If you think about a game that gets into a bit of an aerial shootout, does that give the Lions team an advantage not only based on maybe the quarterback head-to-head, but also just the personnel in general and their ability to go to 3 wides more than the Niners?
Yeah, maybe. And they've got, listen, man, we guys know, we know that Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Laporta, been really damn good, right, for them. And while if you're just talking about raw talent and throw it, Goff can rip it. But when I hear people say, well, and I've said it to myself, guys, I battled and looked and argued with myself over if this happens, what about this? If they are one-dimensional, let's just say it does come into a passing fancy. Well, I look at the numbers and balls thrown down the field, yards per attempt, accuracy, protecting the football for the most part. I'm trying to figure out why I would, listen, Goff's the ability not to wilt when they ran him out of Los Angeles. He goes to Detroit, and it worked out for both teams. They go win their Super Bowl with the Rams, and now Goff's got this. He may not be showing it, but there's this burning desire that everybody has when somebody quits on you. And that's exactly what the Rams did, and it worked for the Rams to go back and say, wait a second, I'm going to prove to you. And Brock's got that going on every week. Because if Brock was the third pick of the draft, not the last pick of the draft, the narrative on him would be completely different. But we're looking for reasons to, that's why he's not any good, but I don't see him. Now, we're not in a superstars competition, and we're not trying to see how far a guy can throw it. So I'm sitting here saying, okay, if it is one-dimensional, because of formations and personnel, do you favor the Lions? Maybe. But what about the numbers? And I know that just having McCaffrey in the backfield is a threat that the defense has to deal with. But there's nothing that tells me that Purdy still can't get into a throwing contest and win a football game. I think the whole key to the game, we know that you got to not turn it over and get red zone touchdowns. The Deebo Samuel situation, to me, is even if he doesn't touch it, you have to be on the field to defend it and understand the formations. I'm curious, and I don't know where it's at right now as we sit on Thursday. You guys probably have a better idea. But the Deebo Samuel stuff and deploying him if he's playing or if he's not has a lot to do with it because the threat of the run still gives you windows to throw in. I'm not convinced that the Lions, as the quarterback goes, other positions, but as quarterback goes, I'm not convinced that Jared Goff has a major advantage over Brock Purdy in a throw-in shootout, even though we know neither team wants to do that. Maybe the Lions would like it a little more, but you're still asking two really good players to do their thing, and both are capable of winning this game and being the reason you win. Goff was great last week as well.
Sean Salisbury with us here on Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game, getting ready for the NFC title game. Let's dive into that a little bit more. The Deebo Samuel effect. How do you see that affecting what Kyle Shanahan does this weekend?
A lot. Where's he at percentage-wise, guys? When I know the decision, if I'm San Francisco, I hold out as long as I can to make the decision, just even while Detroit's game planning. Where are we at right now locally?
It feels like it's starting to trend a little bit in the positive direction. But, what started at 50-50, Kyle's words yesterday was he came in and he felt a little better, so I feel a little bit better. It's a pain thing. That's going to be the deal.
Yeah, the threshold of pain. And I'm saying, even if you did know, I'm into the psychological part of it. I'm letting people know, hell yeah, he's going to play. Hell yeah. Why? Or not that he's, you wouldn't say that, but, well, we're hoping it feels good. He feels better today because I want Detroit to have that in their head. Because I've said this to you guys, we've talked about this before, and I think, over the years of me doing this in San Francisco, but even with you guys, and even early in the year when I felt San Francisco was going to the Super Bowl, and Brock Purdy's validated that as well as this team has, and so many good players, is that in the AFC, the toughest team to put – I'm sitting in my office in a game plan, the toughest team to game plan for in the AFC, I didn't say defend all the time, but to put in a game plan for is the Baltimore Ravens. Inside run game, power, outside, pull the ball. The guy's as good in space, Lamar, as anybody on the planet. Play action game because of what they got to do to get nosy. They don't want to get run on, and they're the best running team in the AFC. And then Lamar has taken his throwing game because of Todd Monken and the rest to another level. They're the most difficult to prepare a game plan for. In the NFC, it's San Francisco. And the reasons are multiple. We already know, everybody knows Kyle's reputation of formations. We saw it here with Bobby Slowick and C.J. Stroud trying to become that when we can get a run game here. But you've got to defend so much bandwidth with Deebo in the game that it's like, damn, him and George Kittle, who put 1,000-plus yards. And then Ayuk, and we know what Christian brings and the offensive line. So all the different elements, even if you don't use Deebo Samuel, like let's say he touches it 9 times going into a game, you got to prepare because those 9 times are like, damn, they could be the difference in a game. But he changes motion and he changes the way you deploy your defense. So when you're game planning for them, Deebo Samuel's at the top of the list of not only he's the number 1 Swiss Army knife, but he makes defensive coordinators pull their hair out preparing because you got to defend so much. Well, and you got an accurate quarterback who's smart. So you hold out as long as you can. I think it's huge. I'll put it this way. If the 49ers with Deebo Samuel play their best and Detroit plays their best and Deebo was healthy, threshold of pain was fine, then I think San Francisco could win this going away. If you remove, I was talking to a guy today, I said, listen, a buddy of mine who's big into sports betting and all that and loves football, and we talk, and he said, and I told him, I said, to me, this game, if you're a gambler, that Deebo Samuel not being in there, I would take the Lions with if you're giving me 7 points, I'm taking the Lions all day. But just the presence of Deebo Samuel changes everything. So I think this is one of the biggest decisions or injury things in the postseason we will see last year, this year, at any time, because I hold him in that kind of regard, and I know coordinators are mad. It's maddening to try to defend it. So I think it's huge, guys. I do. Can they win without him? Sure. But it makes it a lot easier to execute it with him, and it uses up a lot of space psychologically when you're preparing as a defense. And even an offense, what kind of points are we going to need? Yeah, the Deebo Samuel effect is one of the 5. Outside of the quarterback, there's not 3 people that would miss for a game that would change a game plan in the NFL more than this guy does, who doesn't have the ball in his hand 70 times a game.
That's well put. I mean, all the pre-snap motions and just the threat of Deebo, I think, is enough to drive a defensive coordinator crazy. If you look at the other side of the ball, Detroit with a great 2-headed monster in the backfield. You mentioned Amon-Ra St. Brown, the great receiver, and a good tight end. If you're Dan Campbell and you're approaching this Niner defense offensively, what do you try to do? Do you try to pound the ball and keep the ball, or do you try to use your big play weapons to strike at the Niners?
You know what? I love the question because, you see it all the time. When people talk about commitment to one thing we know, guys, one thing that Kyle Shanahan is not going to do, which a lot of teams do, 3 and outs in a row, and you're getting stuffed in the run game. You think Kyle's going to quit on it with McCaffrey and that? No, they're not. Where other teams will say, damn, it's one of those days. Detroit's top 3, top 4 run defense. We're just going to throw the hell out of the ball and realize that today wasn't our day running it. That will not happen for the 49ers. Now, the distribution may be different if, in fact, you're getting stuffed. But on the other side of the ball with their offense and Dan Campbell and the approach with Jared Goff, I personally think that if you're them, why change now? Now, you're going to put in some different things, your base stuff, and you're going to move it around. And Dan Campbell's not afraid when you get down to the red zone to run a reverse pass and slip Laporta or a running back out of the backfield on a wheel route. You'll see that at some point this week in this game. They're going to pull a quick change turnover trick play that they expect to throw a touchdown or get a huge play. I promise you that's coming. But I don't think of it if I'm Detroit, regardless of what they're doing on their offense or what you're doing on defense. I think you're saying my weapons are good no matter what. We have to at least run the ball. And, Gibbs has been a great add to them because of it, and they do have that 2-headed monster, but he's got that perimeter speed, so they can get you inside and outside. I expect a lot of play action, and the 49ers, as good as their front 7 can be, even when a team can run it, you do have to bring an extra guy down a lot of times, which makes middle of the field closed, and you got outside lanes. So I would expect them to and you don't have to, when it's taking to the run, commit to the run doesn't first down. Commit to the run can mean on 2nd and 8, hand it off, run it, get it to 3rd and 3, and then we'll throw. I actually think that they believe that they can throw the ball and win. I don't think they want to abandon it at any time. But really, with St. Brown and Laporta off play action and Jared Goff, the way he's throwing it, if they throw it average, no matter how well they run it, they're not going to win. And I think they know that. So while you make adjustments at this stage of the game, what happens to some playoff teams is they get too cute and overthink it. You don't need to overthink it. Execute it. The whole key is going to be keeping Goff upright and allowing him to deliver the football. And if he can do that, he's going to make some plays. So I wouldn't think at any point in time either one of these teams is going to want to get caught in a one-dimensional game. But the Lions, I would think, believe they can throw 40 times and win this football game, and they've proven it. But I don't think you're going to see a major change of let's just attack this because we're good at this. I think they're going to do what they execute well and get Gibbs in the pass game and their running game backs and some outside stuff to run and challenge the perimeter and try to allow Goff to play to a clean pocket. And I wouldn't be shocked if they came out and threw it 5 straight times to open the game either. I think that's how versatile they are. And I can tell you this, aside from Kyle Shanahan and all the motions, as good a play caller in the NFC and along with the Andy Reid in the AFC, their play caller is really good. I think one of these teams is waiting for him until they lose to hire him as the head coach. I think he's that good. I think he's really, really good, and you're going to be challenged by him because he will take shots. He's not afraid.
Sean Salisbury with us here, 95.7 The Game. I love that you're talking about the idea of changing what you do in the postseason, because this is fundamental to a conversation that we had for a good portion of our show. Sean, there's plenty of people, and part of it is just fandom in the playoffs, but plenty of people who think that Kyle Shanahan gets too conservative in the postseason. My question to everybody today is, when does 4 trips in 5 years to the NFC title game become the answer to, I'm just going to do what I do, it's working better than you think it is? What is your perception of him come January and February as a play caller?
My perception of him, now the formational, the way he goes about it will, and over, he's had 2 trips to the Super Bowl, and like you said, a handful of trips to this game. If he hasn't, if Kyle hasn't learned, which he has, you'd hope, he's a smart guy, continue to evolve as a head coach and a play caller, then he's never going to learn. But I believe he has, and we're going to find out. And I understand, and I don't like, and I'm not just talking about Kyle Shanahan, any coordinator, and especially when you've been doing it, or when I say coordinator, a head coach that calls his plays, when you get to this point, the playoffs can make you go wacko, guys. As a quarterback, as another player, I've seen it sometimes as a quarterback, your first ones or your 10th one, you're like, when you start off slow and it feels like there's 15 dudes on the field, so you say, how do I get back to square one? Well, with Kyle, and make no mistake about it, guys, the questions, and it's fair, not to this point, but to this point beyond, in a huge game like this and in a huge game in 2 weeks, as we're looking, they're a Super Bowl team, Kyle still has that burden of carrying, are you going to win the Super Bowl, not just get there? And I get it. That's fair. It's fair to everybody. It's fair to quarterbacks. It's fair to Dak Prescott. It's fair to Josh Allen. It's fair to Kyle Shanahan. But I don't think he'll choke on the formations and being multiple. But what it is, you lean on what you do best, what he's got to guard against. And I understand fandom. We all do it. Sit there and throw Nerf balls, hopefully not real baseballs at your TV when you don't see it, is even if the patience to say, we're not going to all of a sudden eliminate McCaffrey from the run game if they're stuffing us. You can't, because you may get stuffed, and all of a sudden in the middle of the third quarter, that cat makes one jump cut, and it's 45 yards to the house, and the whole thing changes. And that, in my mind, a great play caller always has that hovering. Plus, you still want to keep everything available. So for me, conservative is what? People only call it conservative when it doesn't work, right, guys?
Right.
But they love it when Baltimore rushes for 200 yards and throws it 22 times. Is that conservative? No, that's just doing what we do, and we did it better than the other team. Why the hell do I need to throw it 35 times? So that's what they do, and we've talked about this. If he can throw it 28 times and run it 38 or 34 times, they'll win, and that'll be exactly what he wants. So, yeah, we all have a tendency to lean on if we drive the golf ball 320 and we hit wedges into bunkers, we're going to grab the driver and keep driving it. That's what you lean on. So the ability for him to stay out of his own head and do what he does and not listen to social media or listen to a crowd that's frustrated. But you also, on the other side, got to get out of the ego, not just him, any of us, get out of the ego of, hey, my guys are better than yours. I'm going to shove this square peg into a round hole down your damn throat, to the point where now it's early in the fourth quarter and you're down 2 touchdowns, and now you do have to eliminate what you're doing to play catch-up because the clock's working against you. So and I know this sounds cliche and elementary, adjustments in this game during the game, I ain't talking about halftime, I'm talking about in between series, are going to be paramount for both sides. And in particular, if you're not running it very well or throwing it well, how do you create and manufacture your quarterback or your run game, your line to get back into that mode? So you got to be able to adjust on the fly and do it urgently without taking away what the base of your team is. Because if the 49ers don't stick with what they do base, then they're playing at. Then it's like they're a bunch of rookies playing. This isn't how we live. And I think it goes for both teams. And I'm telling you guys, and you know this, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. In an NFC champ from here on, we say the playoffs are a different energy. From here on, now we're into another layer of energy of zapping your energy with being overloaded. You got to clear the clutter out of your mind and not let it rent space if you've had a 3 bad series. Who cares? You're going to get about 12 of them. So a conservative's only conservative when you don't adjust and you get your ass kicked. That's when it is. Baltimore was fairly conservative, but they ran 200-plus yards, so conservative as much as you want. And I think Kyle would love a similar result in the run game and the pass game and the attempts that he saw Baltimore do against Texas last week.
Sean, great stuff.
Or Houston, should I say. Yeah,
Texas. Exactly. Yeah, we got you. Thank you so much for coming on, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Sorry to keep you guys so long. 49ers by a field goal +1. How's that?
And are they playing the Ravens?
You'd be an idiot to vote against Mahomes, and you'd be an idiot to vote against the best team in the AFC. So how's that for good insight? I'll sit on the
on the fence. Yeah,
exactly.
I listen, guys. Baltimore and San Francisco have been my teams the whole year. I wouldn't bet against Mahomes ever in January or February like I wouldn't have Brady. Give me Baltimore by a field goal. So if the betting line hits the city, I'm going to say it's Baltimore's year to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it sounds like a good weekend if it goes that way. Sean, thank you, man.
You guys are the best. Have a good one. Good luck this weekend.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. There he is, Sean Salisbury, with us right here on Willard and Dibs, and he's calling for a cardiac Sunday, 2 field goal games.